Hello, everybody. This is Laura Peterson. I'm your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So lots of great stuff going on that I want to talk to you about today. And basically, people ask me all the time what's going on in the market. And so I'm going to be telling you that this morning, obviously, or whenever you happen to be listening to this. But basically, when we're looking at it this week over last week, there were 362 homes that were sold, and it was 372 the week before. Now, we're kind of in the middle of the month. This is from October 12th to the 18th. So when we're looking at that, it's kind of standard for what it's been for the last few years, very similar. And the median price of a single family home is at $450, which basically is the same as what it's been for the last few years as well. It went up 3% from last week, but when we're looking at week over week, it's not really something that you can count on that something is changing or whatever. We're basically just looking at what's happening in a period of time. And so when I'm giving these stats and I'm talking about it and all of that kind of good stuff, I'm actually talking about what is happening today and the trends and what they're looking at, because a week is not really much that you can tell, but a lot of time over a period of time, you can definitely tell what's going on. Now, the inventory is still increasing. It's at 9,092. And with the number that we have this week, that gives us 5.8 months of inventory overall. Now, between 4 and 6 is considered a normal market. But real estate's very granular. When you look at under 250, there were 23 houses that sold, and that gives us over 6 months of inventory. Between 250 and 400, we're right at about 5 months of inventory. Then 400 to 500, we go to 6.5. 500 to a million, we go to 5.5. And then over a million, you go to 10.63. So when you're thinking about that and you're going, okay, so basically if there's 10 months of inventory and I'm putting my house on the market that's over a million, that means that that there's 10 months of inventory out there basically is what's going on. So, and in essence, just to put it in perspective, there were 20 houses that sold this week that were over a million. So if you take that times 4, that's about 80 houses a month, and there's 921 houses on the market. So if somebody's looking for $1 million house and they say, hey, I'd like to see them, well, they're not going to look at all 921 of them that are in our area. And that's what my point is that when there's a lot of excess inventory, or there is a lot of inventory, you have to think about it as the consumer going, oh my gosh, I am not going to go look at 920 houses. You're going to pick the probably 5 or 10 on average. Most people look at 10 and pick one. So basically you have to be one of those 10 that people are going to pick out of those 921. So how are you going to stand out? And that's really what my message is to sellers day in and day out when I'm meeting with them, to actually help them understand in regards to what's going on. Because you can price your property wherever you want, and you say you can wait for somebody to see it and somebody's going to come in. But if it doesn't stand out, they're never going to make it to your house to begin with. And I was talking to one of my sellers that were getting showings and everything on their house because we strategically set it up so that we would. And so that's really awesome. And I'm excited that we're able to do that. We've got somebody looking at it for the 3rd time. And then we've got several people that have looked at it 2 times. And people are today think that they have all the time in the world to make their decision, because to a certain extent they do. So they are taking their time, unlike a few years ago that basically, if you snapped your fingers, you put it on the market, you snapped your fingers and it was gone. And so basically when it comes down to it, You really have to know what you're doing and have your house stand out. So basically, well, I'm saying basically a lot today. Sorry about that. When it comes down to it, though, the thing is that what you have to do is that you definitely have to make sure that your house is priced in a way, that's one of the things that you can do, that it's priced in a way that it's going to draw people's attention. And if it draws their attention, then they are going to at least look in the pictures. And then from there, they're going to come to the property. So basically, what you have to make sure that you've got all the ducks in a row. And today, in today's market, a lot of times that's what people are doing, is that they're looking at the pictures. Now, when you think about it, and people are looking at the pictures on a house, and they're going, okay, they're going to decide, like, we're just looking at over 1 million today. We're just going to concentrate on that and looking at that. And so there's 921 houses on the market, and they're going to pick maybe 5 to 10 that they're going to look at. And all of those sellers are going, pick me, pick me, pick me. And so you have to have your house strategically priced so that they'll look at it in the first place. And then the second thing that you have to have is that you have to have pictures that are something that they want, that they would potentially want to see. Now, what I've noticed is in the million plus buyers is that they're very discriminating. It's usually not their first house. So basically when they come in there, they know what they like and they know what they want. So many times when they're coming in there, they are going to transform that house to be something that they want. So that might just be paint, that might be flooring, that might be moving walls, that might be redoing kitchens, bathrooms, any number of things that it could be. But generally, I find that they're budgeting about 10% when it comes down to what they want to budget in order to change that particular house. And so sometimes they want to try to get that off of the price. Sometimes they will just have it built in and all of that kind of thing. But when you look at these stats that I'm going over with you guys today, is that when you're looking at list to ask price ratio, overall, we're at 96.5. But over 1 million, we're at 93.81. So there's a lot more negotiating room there. And then the other surprising thing might be that under 250 is where the other place where there's a lot of negotiating room, that's at 91.33. And the reason is on the low side is because if a house is priced like that, then they're going, okay, well, it's going to need renovations, and probably it does. If our median price is 450 and you're buying a house under 250, then usually there's something that needs to be done on that house. There's no free lunch or anything out there, unfortunately. So basically, when it comes down to it, there's probably something that has to be done to that house. And so people are coming in there and knowing that that's what they have to do. And then over 1 million, they're also going, okay, I'm going to need to change this. But getting back to the pictures, the thing that is critical, whether it's under 250, over 1 million, or anywhere in between, today the pictures have to be good. Because if the pictures aren't good, the people aren't even going to come in. And I know there's so many times when I look at some pictures that are online or that people have their house on the market, and I just go, oh no, they're missing it, because they're going ahead and they're putting things that are like half baked or whatever out there, I guess is the best way to say it. And all they had to do is look at the picture and go, okay, well, that really doesn't look that good. Maybe they're dark, maybe they're cloudy, maybe they've got clutter or whatever. And so you really have to be intentional about that in regards to what you're doing. And the other thing that I think is really important, and this is something that every real estate agent doesn't do, but it's something that I definitely do. In today's market, a lot of times there's people that think that you need to tell everybody everything and everything. Anything and everything about the house and show them all the pictures from soup to nuts. But guess what? If you do that, if you show them everything that's out there, what's going to happen is they're going to say, hey, I've already seen that house. I don't have to go in it. Or, hey, I don't like that third bathroom. I don't like the way that it looks in that picture. It looks really small, or it looks really big, or it looks really dated, or it looks this or that or whatever. And so you don't want to have a picture online that people are going to say, nope, that I'm going to X that off of my list. We're going to look at something else. And that's what happens, ladies and gentlemen, every day. So anyway, I'm going to finish more on this after the break. But in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I was going over stats and looking at everything. The average days on the market for a single family home right now is 72 days. And basically, when you're looking at over $1 million, because I was talking about that earlier, it is it's 100 days roughly is what that is. So quite a dichotomy in regards to what's going on there. So you just have to, again, look at everything and see what's going on. When we're looking at condos, townhomes, and villas, there were 109 that sold last week versus 89 the week prior. So a little bit more, so that's good. And that price also increased to $265, which was up 6% from the week before. But like I said, it's kind of within in my big margin of error, because when you're looking at the single family homes, they kind of vary from what I've seen lately from 425 to 475, and we're at 450 right now. And the condos and townhomes and villas kind of go from 250 to 300. And basically right now we're at 265. So again, we're kind of right in the middle of that. And that inventory increased as well. And they're sitting at 4,435. So the condo market inventory is even worse than the single family homes. When it comes down to it, there were 100 of those 109 sales. There's 9.41 months of inventory overall. And the price point between 300 and 400, there's 11 months of inventory. Between 400 and 500, there's 11 months of inventory, 14 months between 500 and a million, and none of them sold over $1 million. There's only 10 on the market, but none of them sold, so it's kind of hard to tell what that is. And the list of sale price is down to 95.08 versus the single family homes was at right around 96.7 or something. So there's starting to be a little bit of a difference. There wasn't a difference between the asking price and the sale price that was that much. They were both about 98% for single family homes and condos, townhomes, and villas. But now the condos are going down a little bit further, and there's a little bit more negotiating room. And when you're looking at that much inventory, and it's just like I said, you've got to stand out. You've got to have a special angle in regards to what you're doing in order to get people in. And you've got to show them the things that they want to see, and you've got to exclude the things that might be normal. For example, I was talking with somebody earlier this week, and the thing that we were talking about, what makes a $500,000 home worth $500,000? And you're like, well, location and all of these things and features. Yeah, of course. But basically, are there things in that home that you might find in a $300,000 home? Like maybe you're going to find a half bath that would be the same in a $300,000 or a $350,000 home. Or maybe and then maybe you would find things that you would find in a $700,000 home too. So if you do, basically, when it comes down to marketing 101, what do I want to show on that property is I want to show those things that show that house that looks like it's worth 700,000, and then I'm going to get you into it. And so when you come into that house, you're going to be like, yep, this is exactly what I was expecting and what I wanted and all that. We're not going to not tell the truth. We're totally going to tell the truth. But basically, if I show every single picture, if I do a walkthrough video, which I have on a lot of my listings and that kind of stuff, so that I can send them to the out-of-town people. But if I do all of those things and you have all of those things at your disposal, you think you've seen the house. And I've talked to many people. I personally don't really sell houses to people that haven't seen them, but I've talked to people that have bought houses unseen. And again, if it's a business decision, not a problem. If it's a home that you're going to live in, usually a problem. And so you definitely want to look at the houses that you're going to consider to be there, for for yourself and your family. No doubt about it. You definitely want to do that. So when it comes looking at what the situation is and what's the best scenario, you really need to look at the whole big picture is what it comes down to if you're buying or selling. But we're turning into a buyer's market. And so with that, the sellers have got to be really good at what they're doing to marketing the property. Like I said, 3 or 4 years ago, you could put a house on the market, snap your fingers, and it was pretty much gone. And a lot of times for well over asking price. When that all shook out, and basically that was done when the interest rates went up, which was, I think it was about 22 when the interest rates started to go up. And once they got over like 5%, 5.5%, they kind of say 5 is a really good number, and maybe even 6 is not bad. But once they went over 6, the affordability went out the window, and people were not excited about spending the money. Now, there's still houses being sold. Like I said, there were 362 or 72 or something that sold this week. So houses are still being sold and condos are still being sold. But basically, it comes down to that you have got to absolutely have your act together in knowing what you're looking for, what you're trying to do, and what you're going to make happen. And that's basically the bottom line. And so we definitely want to make sure that we dot our I's, cross our T's, do everything that we need to in order to make those things happen. So we definitely do that. We also go ahead and do whatever it takes to make sure that if you want to get your house sold, that you're going to do it. For example, I'm talking to, but dotting the I's, crossing the T's is what you need to do, and show the things that you're going to get people into it. I was talking to a gentleman this week that he really wants to sell his vacation home. And basically what I do have a property manager that has given me a really good ROI on that particular unit that they have. So what I told the guy is I said, hey, if you're looking for a better ROI, I might have a way of doing it, but what it's going to be is changing property managers. And it's not going to me. It's somebody that I ran into, that they've shown me the numbers in what they can do in those units. They have their whole plan put together, and it's something that I think is good for that particular owner to understand, because what he said he wanted to do is that he wanted to purchase another property. And so basically, he's looking for something that's going to give him more return on investment. Well, he might already have what he needs to get that good return on investment. So you need to make sure that that's what I mean by dotting the I's and crossing the T's, of looking at what your options are, what you're going to do, what's going to make the most sense, and everything when it comes down to it. Because I did tell him that I do have an offer, and it's a bona fide cash offer on his particular home by an individual, not through our regular cash offer program. and it's about 50,000 under what he has it on the market for today. And so basically, what I told him is that there is the option of a short sale out there if he really needs to sell that property. But if he does want to do that, then it might limit him in purchasing other properties for a couple of years. And so he's not sure that he wants to do that. But at the same time, he's kind of sitting in a situation where he doesn't want to be. And so basically, when you're not in the driver's seat because you don't have that buyer that's going to give you exactly what you want, then you have to look at what you can do, what should be done, what's the best way to do it, what your options are, how to get through it, and we absolutely help you do that. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So one of the things that I found interesting this week is that it says pre-sale upgrades may speed up home sales. And this is an article, but this is something that I already knew. So basically, what this is saying, homes with pre-sale improvements sell 72% faster as agents focus on helping sellers boost appeal and profits instead of chasing new leads. So basically, what it comes down to is that we have done these studies, and we have what we call a certified pre-owned home, of which I've got one of those going right now that we're in process of doing. And basically what we do is that we do the inspection and everything up front. We go ahead and we repair everything and all of that kind of good stuff, so that when someone comes in and sees it, they're given the inspection report, so they don't have to use it. They can obviously get their own inspector to come in and do it. But the seller has self-assurance because they know that the house has already been inspected, and if there's any surprises, they've already found them. So they can feel more confident about that. When you get an offer, it's much more, people more confident and less likely to fall apart. 40% of houses in Central Florida fall apart, that they go under contract and then they go back on the market. And basically the bottom line is that what I'm finding is that, and I have found over the years, is that a lot of it is due to inspections. Some of it's due to financing, but it's financing or inspections is usually what it is. Now, my statistics are nowhere near that, thankfully. I'm at like 98, 99% in regards to the number that fall apart. I can't remember the last one that did. But basically, when it comes down to it, usually it's because of financing and or inspections. And so, and there's a house that we're dealing with, that one of my agents is dealing with right now, that has solar panels. When they bought the house 3 years ago, they didn't use the solar panels. They didn't know if they worked. They knew they were paid off. They just left them on the roof and never did anything with them. Well, now there's a new buyer coming in that wants to have the solar panels working and thought that they were working. They knew that there wasn't a balance on it, but they didn't understand when they said that they didn't have them hooked up, that they weren't hooked up and that they couldn't be used or whatever right now. So, they're going through that process of actually getting them hooked up so that they can work. They've had a solar person come and look at them to see if they're doable or if they're, beyond repair or whatever, and they are not, and the people still want to go through. But it was kind of touch and go there for a little while in regards to figuring out if they were going to continue on with the contract. So my point is, if you do things up front and you're ready for buyers and you can tell them and go through and show them when it goes under contract, you can rest assured that it's going to have a lot better chance of making it to the finish line, number one. But number two, like this says 72% faster. Our certified pre-owned homes also sell for 2.6% more. So selling for more and faster is usually what people want when they're ready to sell. You know, there's some people that say they just want to put it on the market and see what happens. I wouldn't recommend that at this point in time. If you want to sell, you need to put your best foot forward and have it ready to sell and sell it. And that's what I would recommend for that. So basically, you know, when it comes down to it, you need to know what's going on, see what's going on, and trust what's going on is basically what the bottom line is. So when we're looking at what is happening out there, we go ahead and we do whatever we have to make your house shine. And so when it comes out to that, doing some improvements might make sense. You know, maybe it's changing out the carpet. Maybe it's just getting the carpet cleaned. Sometimes that makes a difference. I sold a house a while ago, and they said, hey, you know, we're going to get it cleaned and all of that. And I said, great. And so they did. Well, the house, the carpet was actually like 20 years old. So they got it cleaned, but it didn't look that well because it was 20 plus years old. And so they decided to replace the carpet. They were able to do all of that for less than $1,000. But when you walked into that house, it looked almost brand new, like that was the thing that was really kind of holding it back. So you need to know that there are little things that you can do that's going to make your home stand out. Like I said earlier in the show, that those are the kind of things that you need to do, that you need to to let it stand out when somebody gets there. Now, the first thing you have to do is to have people get there. And then when they get there, they have to want to be in your house. And it's just little things. For example, there's a lady that I was talking to, and when I was there, I noticed that the smoke detector was beeping. And so I told her, you know, I really would get that smoke detector fixed. And she said, well, you know, what smoke detector? She was so used to that beeping that she didn't hear it. And I said, but anyone who comes in your house, they're going to hear it, and they're going to wonder, why is the smoke detector beeping? And how do you sleep at night with it on? And if you don't pay attention to that, then what other things are you not paying attention to? And so little things matter is what I'm trying to tell you. And so we have a list actually of 27 tips of things to do to get your house ready to sell. And so if you'd like that, just call or text our office at 407-566-2555. We can totally get that out to you and go through those tips and tricks with you. If you want me to come by and look at it, I'm more than happy to do that as well. But, you know, the whole thing as a seller is you've got to make it stand out. And if you can make it stand out and make more money and sell it faster, then hey, let's rip that Band-Aid off and do it. And some people don't want to do it that way, but some people do. They think that they've got all the time in the world. But, and maybe you do, but maybe you just, if you've decided to move on, maybe you should just go ahead and move on. And if you're a buyer out there, I'm going to talk to you more in the next segment, but I think that, you know, even though you have the ability to slow down on your choices, that doesn't mean you shouldn't make a choice. Because if it's something that you like, you're going to find that a lot of other people do too. And a lot of people are kind of hanging out there right now, and then they hang out a little too long and they go, oh my gosh, how come that house has been sitting there forever and now it's gone? And I'm going to tell you why that happens in the next segment, and it's just all psychology. But basically, in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407 888-566-2555. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, I promised, basically, buyers, why you shouldn't sit on the fence and just think, oh, everything's going to work out. Because, it's weird. It's just kind of something out there and everything. Like when you go and you drive by a restaurant and you see that there's a bunch of cars there, in your brain, you go, oh, there's a bunch of cars there. Either it's really busy or it's really good or something like that. And you usually think it's really good. I should check it out. And so then, you're always when you're going by, you're noticing whether or not it's busy or not. And basically, when it comes down to it, if somebody is looking at a specific house and you like it, then if somebody else comes along and they look at it too because they see you're looking at it, it kind of raises the bar, and then you could get into that competitive bid for that house or lose it when you were just kind of taking your time because you thought you had all the time in the world. And sometimes you do, it seems like, have all the time to make a decision, but sometimes you don't. And usually in this kind of market is where the buyers think they have all the time in the world, and they're like, oh, that house over there, I think it would be perfect for me. And then you just don't take action on it. And then all of a sudden it's gone. And then you're like, wait a minute, I wanted to buy that house, and it's too late. You can't do it. And so I think that it's really important as a buyer, if you do find that house and it matches 9 out of 10 of your criteria on all levels, then it's probably something that you should very strongly consider. And maybe even between 8 and 10, looking at it and knowing what the market is. And basically, when I'm working with buyers, I like to look at a lot of houses in a short period of time. And the reason for that is because if you do find something that you like, or if you're unrealistic in what you want to get for the money and you look around at all of the properties that seem to make sense for you, and basically what the scoop is, even in this market with high inventories, there may not be the right property that you exactly want to get. Maybe you want a specific neighborhood. Maybe you want it within a couple of blocks or a couple of miles of a family member or a friend or something like that. And so there might not be all the options. Now, I do have a solution for that. So, basically, I don't want to go too far down this path in saying that. But basically, when it does come down to it, if you have decided that you want to purchase and you need to see 10 houses, 15 houses, maybe 20 at the most, because after that, you're probably going to be like, okay, I've seen one, I've seen them all. But basically, when it comes down to it, you want to be prepared to actually make the offer on the house that you like right away. I think I was saying earlier in the show, I was talking to somebody, and I'm pretty sure it was you guys, but I was saying earlier that there's a house that I have on the market right now that somebody's coming back for the third time to look at it, and they're coming on Monday. Well, I happen to be doing an open house today, and I also have a couple of people that have told me that they're very interested, that I've given them lender information, that they're following through with that and getting that all set up. So these people that are coming back and seeing that house 3 times may not have the option to purchase it when they get all said and done. In my opinion, if you're going back to look at it for the 3rd time, then you need to be making an offer. And like I said before, 40% of the deals fall apart. Not that we want that to happen. But if I'm working with a buyer, I'm going, hey, let's put this under contract because you really like it. And when we put it under contract, we've got our inspection period and all of that kind of stuff that we could potentially get out of the contract if we needed to, if we found something better or it wasn't the right fit or whatever. And so basically in doing that, what I have found with the buyers is that they get themselves, that they understand that commitment. They are happy that they made that commitment, and that's what it comes down to. And basically, when I'm out there with buyers, what I'm saying to them is, where does this house stack up on a scale of 1 to 10? And what would it take to get it to a 10? And if we can get the seller to do that, then you should take action. But real estate is so very local. You know, when I give these big stats out that are stats for the area and that kind of thing, it gives you an idea in regards to what's going on, but nothing compares to actually looking at your specific subdivision, models that are like your home. All of those kinds of things definitely add in to make a difference in regards to what's going to be the best plan for whether or not that house is going to be the one that might be the right one for you. So there are things that we can do, but basically, you know, what I was saying is that the oddest thing that happens, and people don't understand, but it's kind of like when you buy a new car, you're thinking about a car and you look around and all you see are that particular car model, and you're like, oh my gosh, everybody's got that car. There's another one. There's another one. Well, it's just that it wasn't on your radar. And so for some reason, if you get interested in a house, then sure as heck, what happens is that, you know, a lot of other people are also interested in that house at the same time, even though it might have been on the house for 6 months before and no one was potentially interested from what you could tell. But all of a sudden, everybody comes through the woodwork at the same time, and you're like going, well, how could that happen? And it doesn't make sense. And most people think that somebody's making up a story. And I can tell you right now, I don't make up stories. I have real stories, but I don't make up stories. So that's something that you could definitely know, chew on, and all of that kind of good stuff. And when it comes down to it, I would be faster rather than slow to make sure that you get the deal that you want. And then you can always negotiate a few things once you get going down the road and everything. But if you're not the one that's under contract, you're not going to get that opportunity. You're not going to get that even ability to do it. And so I always say, let's get it under contract, see if they're going to accept the price that you say, and then kind of go from there. And, you know, definitely when we do that, we end up getting the right house for the people and doing that. And so the question again is, how do you see this house now on a scale of 1 to 10? And what would it take to get it to a 10? And basically in knowing that, it makes people think, they look at it, they know what their best situation is, and then they go from there. But it's been great talking to you this week. And in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you next week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.